See the little ring. Oh, wait.
Your laugh is
high
so
technology setup.
I know. Your laugh is so freaking contagious. I'll be sitting in my living room and I'll be like watching you, and then all like my family looks over and I'm smiling so big. I'm like, what are you watching? And I'm like, Vivian laugh. Oh my gosh.
Vivian,
I do have a big laugh.
how are you doing? First of all, I have to say, I'm going to introduce you as the woman who took over our stage, and a stripper tried to give you a dance, but you actually flipped the script and pretty sure sat him down and took over the dance. And everyone's like, that was the best shit I've ever seen. So you just really,
snacks.
With your snacks, you had popcorn or something and drinks.
I mean, if you're gonna do a show, it needs to be a full show.
I mean,
snacks and drinks and everything. Right?
You fucking committed, is what you did.
Totally agree. Oh my gosh. So Vivian, we want to talk to you about a bunch of things.
You tell us what you're not comfortable with, because I mean, you've been in the news, you have you've sold the company, you've done so much, and I'm like, shit, we could beat out a lot. You exposed MLM recently.
I'd love to hear like you talk all about that too. If we can we touch on that at the end?
Yeah, absolutely.
I love hearing you talk about that. And I think it's so informative, considering all of the, a lot of the audience that's watching. But can you tell us about you as an entrepreneur and the business that you grew?
Yeah. So I'm what they call a serial entrepreneur. So I've started multiple businesses, and with my latest business, which was called Kinky Curly Yaki, I ran that for a good 10 years, good 10 years. And what that is, it was an e-commerce business, and I sold premium textured hair extensions for Black women. And it's something that I started as a single mother, a college dropout, an immigrant, like all the obstacles that you could possibly think that could stop me from doing entrepreneurial stuff were there, but I managed to take that shit and turn it into manure.
Where did you get the confidence? Because I feel like so many women are like, I'd love to start something. Some of them don't know what that thing is, and then some of them are like, I have the product, I have the idea. Where do you get the confidence to actually jump? Because there must be like a financial investment. Like, did you do it on the side when you were having another job?
Well, yeah. So because, I mentioned off the top that I was a serial entrepreneur. So I started that business while I was running another business that I literally just made up as I was going along. So for me, I bootstrapped it. So it's not like I had any outside money or I took loans
venture capitalists. Is that what we call them these days?
Yeah, the venture.
VC.
I didn't have any VC money.
You had no Chads on your team. Is that what you're saying, Vivian?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There were no Chads giving me money to run my business. What I did was, someone would buy one thing, I would take the profit and buy two. And then that's how I slowly built up my business. And I built it in one of those Rubbermaid bins, like those drawers.
Oh my God.
So I had like 5 drawers. I actually still have it. So 5 drawers, and I had, a couple of products in there. And that's literally how I sold it. I was on social media before social media was what it is today. I was the face of the brand.
So social media was your biggest marketer.
Oh, absolutely. And organic traffic. So I took what I learned from my 9-to-5 and applied it to my business. So I was a marketing manager at my last job, which was in 2010.
Whoa.
Okay.
And I took all that I learned in all the skill set and everything and applied it to my business. So I was up on the SEO. I've always been sort of up on the trends, and then would take those trends or whatever was happening in the space. And this is e-commerce back in 2012. So this is just when Amazon started doing what it was doing, and people were getting comfortable with putting their credit cards.
You also became a mom, like at some, like in between all of that. Then a baby came too, while you're doing 2 jobs and applying these things. That's great. That's crazy.
Sorry, was that a question? I didn't hear.
No, I'm just saying, like, while you're, I'm just picturing you working 2 jobs.
To your craziness.
And then I'm like, that's pretty crazy that because motherhood alone, like, it's like you didn't stop. It's like you just kept going and going and going with a baby, like a baby on the side.
Well, as you know, sometimes you just don't have a choice.
Yep, that's very
Right?
true.
And if anything, the baby fuels you on, right? It's like, because if it was just me, I would have been like, screw this.
Right.
I'm gonna go get a job at HomeSense and just do that, right?
Right.
But no, the baby actually fueled me on, and I say, for the past decade, I minded my business and my baby,
Huh.
and that's all I did. And then, but to answer your question about where you get the confidence, a lot of people think that, oh, you're born with confidence, or it's something. If you watch a bunch of TikToks, you're eventually going to get it. It's about just doing stuff, knowing that you could possibly fail, and not really focusing on the fact that you failed, but focusing on the fact that you learned, or you're learning something, right? And so confidence is a muscle. So it's something you got to keep doing. You got to keep putting yourself outside of your comfort zone in order to gain that confidence. So that's what I did. I just kept doing things that were really uncomfortable. And eventually I got good at those things, right? Or even if I wasn't good at those things, then I was like, you know what? I'm not good at that. So I'm just gonna stop doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Right?
that's
And
okay.
that's the thing. You have to be really self-aware. You have to really know yourself and know your limits, understand what your strengths and weaknesses are. Because listen, not everybody can do me. No one can be me. No one can be Kat. No one can be Nat. You guys are one. We're one of one. No one is like us, right? And so you have to be so self-aware to understand yourself, to be self-aware, to know when to push yourself to do things. If something keeps coming back to you, like if you keep waking up and you're like, man, I really should have done that, or oh, I should, then just do it. What are you afraid of? What so and so thinks? Who cares what Lisa thinks? Is Lisa doing anything? No.
I know.
It's so true, because that's
Right?
holds so many people back, and it's the Lisas that are like your personal friends or your family, and those that you think that matters the most. But when it comes to business, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. If you have a passion for it and you believe in it, then you have to just cancel out all that noise.
Exactly. Cancel out all the noise and try it, because the last thing you want to do is be, taking your last breath and thinking, man, I wish I would have done that. Instead, I was so focused on making sure my husband doesn't forget to pick up the gluten-free cheese.
So true.
Right?
Is there gluten in cheese?
When really you could have put
Probably.
that same energy into that thing that fuels your heart and makes you feel like you're alive.
Do you know what's so sad though is people are going to hear this and not do it. Like I think in
know.
theory it's so easy to think about it and it's so easy to say it, and then it's so much harder to actually fuck it. Like it really is so hard to fuck it.
Well, listen, I'm the first to say it is easier said than done. Right.
No, I just hope they listen to you. I hope they actually like realize like just fuck it. Like, I always think about the nude models that go into high schools when they have to go and the high school students have to draw them.
Figure drawing. They came into our high school. They would go up to the art room and
get naked.
High school students would draw them naked.
Yeah. And I always think about them getting naked. And I'm like, the first time they had to go be a nude model and stand in front of a bunch of high school kids.
Like naked, Vivian, naked,
And
like
I'm
no
like-
pantaloons on.
I'm like, I always get like a worst case. Like I think about like what would be worse than this thing that I have to do.
Being a naked model.
Yeah, like and not and like stand still and then like have to freeze, and then they're actually looking at every part. So like even the pubic hair they're drawing like gently and slowly and circularly, And I think what's the worst thing that you could possibly do? That's it for me.
Yeah.
Everything else, I mean, even the dentist is better than that.
Yeah.
Like you really got to think what's worse than the worst
well, that's
thing.
the thing. You could think, what's the worst that could happen? Or you could think, what's the best that could happen? Like, what's the most bestest scenario that could possibly come out of that, and focus on that? Because you know what? It's better to shoot for the moon and land in the trees than to just be sitting 6 feet under wondering how the hell do I get out of this?
Are you telling me I should go get naked in a high school? Is that what you're telling me, Vivian?
What, girl? Why not?
We could do it together.
To my daughter's class specifically.
daughter's
think I'll
class.
go to my kids' class.
Your daughters, maybe just go to another school.
There's cell phones now. I don't know how they manage that process.
So then, Vivian, you ran this company for 10 years. That's right. And did you do it with how many people?
I did it with it's funny. I'm like, how many people did I do it with? I ran the business for by myself for the first 4 years
Mm-hmm.
solo. So I hit my first $1 million year revenue with just me
What
and
year?
my baby.
What year?
That was 2016.
Vivian, holy shit. I want to know how you celebrated.
You want to know how I celebrated?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I
I
didn't
know.
celebrate
I
it.
know.
That first year where I hit that first million, was actually the year that my son's father decided that he didn't want to do this anymore.
Oh.
So I was so busy focused on that I remember I didn't even realize I'd hit $1 million until I randomly was looking through my Shopify dashboard because I wanted to get this flare for this e-commerce forum that I was a part of. And the flare was basically an indicator of what sort of revenue your shop was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, oh, you know what? I don't actually know. Let me just go so I can, I can put this flare of, I don't know, $250,000 or whatever, what I thought it was at the time. And when I went through, and it turns out like just a couple of weeks earlier, I had surpassed $1 million in revenue that year. For the year, but then I was so lost in depression and woe is me, and I didn't celebrate. I didn't actually celebrate until maybe 2018.
Wow.
And that's when, because later on, so in June of 2016, I'd hired my first employee.
Mm-hmm.
And then it wasn't until 2018 I started to tell my story. Because listen, if you're watching any of these gurus on any of the social media platforms telling you how to make money and blah, 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 make sure they've actually done the work that they say that you're supposed to do. Because I was so busy doing the work, I didn't have time to brag about the things that I was doing.
It's
right?
so true.
And it wasn't until 2018 when I had hired a PR agency to help me get some word out, and we weren't getting traction with just the product. So then she's like, well, what's your story? And then I told her the story. She was like, what? Like, how are you not telling the story? And I'm like, I don't know. I just figure everyone can do. Like, I really thought that what I was doing was not so special. Right.
Yeah.
And then because of that whole thing that was happening with being a single mother, I had that shame that was attached to that. Like, how do I have $1 million business, but I don't have a man? Right. Or I couldn't keep one. And so there was that shame that was sort of attached with that. But then I found power in telling my story and telling women, and especially women of color, listen, we come up against a whole bunch of obstacles, right? But listen, I'm here to show you that it's possible. I'm not here to be a role model or anything. I'm here to show you that I'm a possibility model. I can show you what's possible. Is it easy? Absolutely not.
Right.
But it's possible.
Yeah. And I think that also what you're saying is online entrepreneurship looks so romanticized, and it's not like, it's messy, it's dirty, it's gritty, it's like hard, and it looks so like, I don't know.
Motherhood.
Yeah, it is. But if you're not a mom, that's so hard to understand, because so many people are preaching like, just wake up and do it. Like, and
wake
that
up
is
at 6 a.m. and take a cold shower.
Yeah.
And gratitude journal. And all these people were saying that they don't have kids.
Yeah.
I
I think it's really interesting that, your story is the power of it, because it's kind of like, there's not much more excuses than, like, you had every excuse to quit. Really, you had every excuse to give up, and every almost obstacle to make you quit. And you didn't. You kept growing it, and then you sold it.
So how did you know?
I
So
got tired.
Did you get? Oh, okay.
I got tired.
So you were running it for like 10 years. And then you say you got tired. So did you, like, how does this work? Do you look for a buyer? Is someone knocking on your door?
Oh, well, someone actually came to me in 2017, at the height of the business, and said, hey, we would love to acquire you. And I said, you want to do what?
I love
That's kind
that.
of an exciting conversation.
What are you even talking about? Like, what? Like, me? Like, I didn't realize that was a thing, especially at someone, I thought at my level. And so, what happened was, for me, the pandemic really took the rug out from under me. So my supply chain went to shit in November of 2019, because I get my hair in India, I export it to China for it to get processed, and then I imported it.
Oh, wow.
And so for us, the pandemic hit in November 2019, but at the time we didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
All we knew is our 21 day lead times were going into 60. So of course that affects cash flow because it's like people are buying, but we don't have product, right? And then of course the world shut down, and the majority of my customers were in the US, and we're based in Toronto. So the US was just going on like nothing was happening. But as you know, we locked down.
Yeah, you couldn't even go to the mailbox. Even if you had a
Couldn't even
mailbox,
go- yeah,
even if you
right?
had one
And
outside, you couldn't grab it. You know what I mean?
yeah. And on top of that, I'm a single mother with a kid that was starting the first grade virtual.
Oh, yes.
So it was just a shitstorm. And so then, once we got back into, quote unquote, the normal life after the pandemic, I just sat down. I was like, I am tired. Like, I'm just tired.
Okay.
And so I just reached back out to the people who reached out to me in 2017 and said, hey, I'm ready now.
And were they still wanting?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They were like, yeah, absolutely. Of course, the business isn't what it was back, compared to 2017. But what they understood was that I built a brand. I built something that someone couldn't duplicate if they started a business right now, right? And that's what you see with a lot of acquisitions and mergers of smaller companies into these bigger brands. It's because they know they can't duplicate what that company has created, that culture, that community. And so what they do is they just acquire brands so that they don't have to do all that work. The brand's already done it for them.
That's, I think, important for a lot of people to hear, because I think a lot of people do things and they're like, oh, I'll never be the next biggest thing. But sometimes you don't have to be. It just has to be a community that people can't replicate.
Yep.
So when you got acquired, so does that mean that they cut you a check and you handed over?
Retire?
Yeah, and handed over?
Basically.
Oh,
Wow.
Basically.
that's a dream.
Yeah, it can be. It can be. But for me, I like to feel, and even after I did that, it was sort of, I went through another depression, because here it was like giving up my baby. Like it was literally my firstborn, because I started the business in 2012. I had my kid in 2014. So this is something where this is all he knew. I had an office where that's where he knew that's where mommy works. And to go through the whole thing of, I'd moved the business out of my house because I was getting depressed staying in my house all the time.
Yes.
Right. And then of course so I moved it out. And so it gave me a sense of purpose to go back and forth somewhere.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic kept us home. Like it was just it just felt like I was being dogpiled by life. Right. And so for me, I like to, I don't want to say I want to be productive. I like to be productive because that's not, to me, that's not being authentic. I like to be purposeful. So I like to feel like whatever I'm doing gives me a sense of purpose. And so I struggled for a little bit because it's like, well, what is my purpose? Like, do I want to continue doing TV? Do I want to be an influencer? Do I want to be like, but then I realized I'm so dynamic. I can do all.
You really are too. And entertaining. Dynamic and entertaining.
And funny. Funny is not easy to find. Not everybody's funny. So what did you decide?
Girl, I still don't know. I still don't know. Like, so for me, it's just I'm just doing what feels good. I'm trying. I thought about getting a 9-to-5, but it's like, who would want to hire someone who's been, an entrepreneur for the past decade, right?
I think about whenever I think about that,
consulting.
I think about, gosh, the things that you've learned could be so helpful to anybody. But but then the question is, do you want to work for somebody?
Well, the thing is, it turns out I still don't. The thought of putting together a resume, I was like,
yes, yeah, and you get.
So I do a lot of consulting.
Okay.
Right?
That's great. That's kind of where the money is, by the way. So I hear. I don't know, but I hear it's there.
Oh, it's there. And, I take some of the skill sets that I've learned. And, of course, I didn't have a name for it, but basically, I'm a project manager. Like,
what does that mean?
Running a business, especially if you do it solo, you become a project manager. And so I was like, huh. So I've been doing some little project management on the side, and it turns out I enjoy it because what it is, all that stuff comes to me naturally. But people are like, oh my God, you're so organized. I'm like, how could you not?
Because a lot of people aren't.
Vivian, can you help me for 1 minute understand? So when you say you consult, that usually means that you go and you help companies understand where they're at, or you go and help them like get their project off the ground, or you are working with them day in and day out?
No, so say recently I did a project where it's like they had I have a deadline. They had an event. and they basically needed to get to the deadline of that event, and have someone that sort of can put on the hats and figure all the moving pieces are, and then, assign tasks to different people. Okay, so this is what needs to be done. This is the overall picture of what needs to be done. We need to get to this deadline. These are all the stakeholders. These are all the tasks that need to be done. You do this, you do this, you do that, you do that, you do that. And then I would fill in the gaps, just because I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm able to do that, right? And I would fill in the gaps of, if we didn't have a person to do that, then I would do that.
Wow.
And so then there's various things I could do. So, or even I work with brands that need an entrepreneur personality, right? So someone that's the face of the brand that can pull in a small business audience and speak to them in their language, right? As opposed to, I'm a big corporate brand and I'm going to pretend I know what I'm talking about. No, you've never run a business, but I have.
Right. Yeah.
That's really smart, by the way.
Language.
That's like because that's a different way of consulting than because I didn't really know what consulting was. So I'm thankful you.
Well, no, so everything that you said was correct. So it's just a matter of how you apply it, right?
Yeah, I just think if like Chad's being like, I'm a consultant, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. They just say that. It's like when someone says they're in finance, you're like, got it. I don't know what do you rob banks? Like, what do you do in finance? Very vague.
Yeah.
These
I'm
jobs.
An importer, exporter.
What does that mean? What do you cocaine or
as an entrepreneur, I can say all those things too. I'm an importer, exporter.
Yeah, totally.
So true.
When people, and I always find whenever people ask me what I do, I just say I'm an entrepreneur. And then if they ask other questions, then I might go into detail. But other than that, I'm just an entrepreneur. Mind your business.
Okay, I like that. I'm an entrepreneur in what I just say. I'm in digital media.
Yeah,
that's what I say.
Yeah,
digital media. Oh,
I have to say that I do you have a little bit more time?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. I know you're dying to ask this question. This question.
This might be a part 2 podcast.
This is Natalie going for the deep. Here we go.
Okay, so Vivian, I stumbled upon from watching your like Insta stories, and then watching what you had revealed about some conversations you'd had on a topic. I know that so many women have become part of multi-level marketing companies, and I don't know anybody who hasn't been approached by one. And I think it's very confusing, the whole world of it, because it's targeted towards moms and showing them an opportunity to make so much money while they're at home and taking care of their kids. I want to know your opinion on this topic and these businesses. I want to hear it because I know you're going to tell it like it is.
Well, my acronym for MLMs is Moms Losing Money, right? So it's very much preying on women who lack a sense of self, who lack a sense of community, who lack a sense of support or of purpose. Right. And they feel like this. And of course, we're living in an age of quick instant gratification. Right. So that it appeals to that.
Yes.
So it really tries to attract the women who, honestly, they probably wouldn't have fallen for this if they were doing something purposeful, if they felt like they were doing something purposeful with their life.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of women end up in this place, whether they're in between careers, their kids have moved out, they no longer need to be taken care of as much, and they sit there and they're like, I need a purpose. And then it's like the MLMs find those people. Yeah,
they find that they find those vulnerable people who just need that, and they tell them what they need to hear, right? And so unfortunately, a lot of women fall for these cults, because that's basically what they are. They use the same, tactics like as cults. A lot of these religious organizations use in order to prey on these vulnerable people and take them for all their money, because it's a pyramid scheme. So the person at the top just keeps getting richer and richer and richer, and the only way you can get rich is if you bring in more people. Like,
so can you get rich from them though? Like, can you actually make a living, or is it such a small percentage that make any money at all?
Such a small percentage can make can become successful, I believe. Like I think you would have a better chance at going at, true entrepreneurship. If you really wanted to, you'd have better success doing that than you would joining one of these things.
Have you witnessed a lot of women who have lost a lot of money by
Absolutely.
joining?
Absolutely. It's just like, girl, how could you? And listen, and I'm not saying these women who are joining are stupid or should know better. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that they know how to get you. They know the right things to say. They know the right things to do. It's all psychology, and they know what to do to get you to part with your money. They want you to feel like you're a part of something. And if you're lacking that, that's very appealing to you.
Yes.
Did anyone bring you hate? Like, cause you ended up being on a TV show. Like you ended up being, and now you're like, we were watching your video all over the internet. Like you're quoted in like Rolling Stone. Like are you the only one who's ever like exposed this? Cause I feel like we're like going down Scientology right now with MLMs. And I feel like you're the woman what's her name? Not Lisa. Come on, guys. The one who like talks about Scientology nonstop.
Oh,
she exposes them all.
yeah, the actress.
The actress.
There's only there's like one person who just exposes Scientology.
Leah
Remini, yeah.
Feels like her, and I feel like if you're quoted everywhere, are you the only one who's publicly stood up and been like, bullshit?
No, I'm not the only one. I'm probably just the most colorful one. This isn't my first rodeo. I actually called out someone else during 2020. So the first person I called out was what's her shoot? I can't even remember her name. The one that had the husband, and then everyone was adoring her husband, and then turns out then they end up getting divorced. And,
Rachel
Hollis.
Yeah, there we go. That
Yes.
lady. So I'm in the New York Times for that one.
What was your comment on that?
My comment. Well, because the whole thing. So because I'm an entrepreneur, because I bootstrapped, and because I've actually had experience, what it was is I had an issue with all these coaches in the space that were using Black vernacular in order to speak to their audience. But then when you looked at their audience, there were no people of color there. So they were co-opting a whole culture in order to make money. For themselves. And what happened was during, the whole Black Lives Matter movement, and this is a woman who herself has adopted Black children, like done the whole thing. She decided not to address it. And I had an issue with that. And there was a whole string of them, a whole string of these coaches that were online that were like, hey girl, hey, and all the time. And then when it came time to, I remember one of them I caught, she actually had, they had a panel, or she had some sort of event, and she didn't advertise the fact that she had a Black woman that was on her panel until she got called out. Then she went and ran and posted a picture of this Black girl at her conference. And I took issue with that. And I called her out and I said, listen, she was not on your website before, but now that Black Lives Matter, all of a sudden you want to jump on the ally train. She would have been on there from before, but you felt like she didn't fit into whatever culture or community that you have. And now all of a sudden you want to look woke.
Yeah.
Well, it started there in 2020. I had some time. I couldn't control the supply chain. So what I could control was calling out people that needed, and then especially because what was happening was everyone, because all the stores shut down, everyone's on lockdown, everyone needed to move their businesses online. So then all of a sudden there were all these experts that were teaching people how to run businesses online that had never run a business online.
Yeah.
Right? So that's how I started minding that business.
Oh my. So you're never afraid of like backlash, eh? You're never afraid?
No. I even if there, and I have faced some backlash, right? And people are like, oh well, I don't see any white women on your page and blah blah blah. And I'm like,
oh my God.
That's not the point. There's no such thing as reverse racism. I don't care what anyone says. There's no such thing.
And
right? Just like there's no such thing as reverse sexism.
Yeah.
Listen, we're all at war against the patriarchy. Okay, you just so happen to be at the top of the rung of people. right?
Yeah.
White women, and and so they are the enemy. Don't try and turn this around on me.
Yeah, I mean, but
Yeah.
that's a big like fish to fry, because especially when on the internet, when you say
Fish
like
to fry. I
didn't know what else to say. Like I was like big
It was a
thing
good
to
one. It's
chew.
a good one.
I was like, when like if you say avocado, when someone says like there's pits in it, and you're like, I don't like it, everyone's like, you cannot say that. Like, it's such the internet is like such a crazy place where I often say, I wish that they almost had, the pictures are so small. I wish that when the comments came up, they'd have to blow up your face with your bio. Like, so it was like,
you have to use your real picture.
your real picture and your real name. So
That
it's like
too.
ding. And then when the comment comes up, all of your followers see who it is. So it's like, like an app should be like that. It's like, oh, so-and-so just said that she like, and I was like, cause the words and the things that would go on would be so much, it would be just such a different world we lived in if people actually could be exposed for how they speak to other people and things they say on the internet. But what I love what you're doing is so many people are not, are afraid to speak their mind on these topics in fear of kind of shaking
Getting the
water
backlash.
or shaking the waters, right? Because we often like tiptoe. We had someone on here who just ripped apart MLMs one time, and we were like, oh my! This was a few years ago. And we were like, oh my god, because you never. I think a lot of women. Because essentially women are recruiting women, and that's shitty because they're not meaning to be. They don't know even what they're doing, because usually it's a man at the top of the chain who's reaping the rewards. So it's this fine balance where they think they're really changing people's lives, but in fact, they're getting ripped off just as everybody else is in a certain way, right?
Yeah, it's like, well, if I'm going to get ripped off, then I got to bring everyone to get ripped off with me.
Yeah, literally. I'm gonna bring my mom, my aunt, my sister. I'm gonna bring everybody.
And then bankrupting whole family.
Vivian, do you think that the MLM world, which is also so funny because before we were moms, like we never knew anything about this. I don't know if it was happening then, but do you think
Nat
there will
almost got catfish, Vivian. She almost literally, she went to a church and she listened to a thing she didn't tell
they
me.
had a famous person there,
And-
because they're like, if this famous person does it, and I
Then
was like,
she told me
wow,
she-
she seems rich.
She told me she was going to do it, and I went like this. No, you're not. I was like, no, you're not. You're not doing this. I go,
Well, you're a good friend.
I think I said I can't even support you. I go, you. No.
And I was like, okay, then I got to do something else. And I did something else. I was like, I got to do something. But do you think
Good.
that
Well, you're a good friend.
there's going to be a fall of the MLM, or do you think this will always just be a thing that will be in women's lives?
I think that it's always reinventing themselves. That's really what it is. It's just reinvention. Like when we were younger, I'm sure you probably had, your mom had a friend that was an Avon or Mary Kay.
Oh my God.
My
And
neighbor
it
was.
didn't seem, and social media has also pushed a lot of this to the forefront, right? Because we got these girls stunting with their Pradas and Gucci's and Lambos and
Yes.
Their white
right?
Mercedes.
and their white Mercedes with their Tiffany bracelets, and I'm in the Dominican Republic today. So we're seeing a lot more of that, right?
Yeah.
Whereas before, quiet. We didn't know who was making money or not.
Yeah.
Right. We knew when they were going to their meetings, but I think the prevalence of social media has helped push it to the forefront. I think what happens is it's sort of MLMs sort of take on different forms. So whether it's actually selling like oils or makeup or lashes or whatever it is, sometimes it comes up in the form of, someone coaching femininity. Right. Or coaching, teaching you, how to keep a man, like all those, like they just keep taking the systems and format in place from MLMs and just applying it to different things. Right?
Hey,
Remember when everyone was an Instagram coach and now everyone's a TikTok coach and now everyone's teaching femininity and everyone's, there's always something. So it morphs. It morphs with the trends.
Yeah.
Where do you put motivational speakers in on that? Like those people? Like, is it all like who sell the courses of how to be more
And they all kind of
authentic?
say, like, if you listen, you're like, you're all kind of saying the same thing.
They all are saying the same thing. And, I gotta be honest. Some people consider me a motivational speaker, but I think the difference between me and a lot of them is that I feel like I have a lot more authenticity.
I think you speak
and I've been
motivationally
vulnerable.
about your experience, which motivates people versus telling people they can be something like you're
that
not
they
just
can't.
Yeah. that too.
I think that with some people, sometimes they'll say to us, I think authenticity breeds motivation when you can relate to a story that's vulnerable. I'm sure a lot of single moms find validation in your story, and they're like, shit, she's motivating me to want to be like her, versus you saying from a secret life, like you don't know what really went on, that if you can do that, like it's like there's like a cloak of like hiddenness, and it's just these words that come out. Like I have no idea what Tony Robbins did before Tony Robbins was Tony Robbins. Like I actually don't know.
What did he do?
I have no idea.
Oh, see?
No, I mean I don't know. I just know he stands on a stage with like a hat and just talks a lot of things. Yeah. But when you tell your story and you relate on your story, that can be motivating for people to be like inspired. You're inspirationally motivating.
They can see themselves in you and your story.
That's the key. So just make sure whoever you feel like, if you're getting motivation or inspiration from someone, make sure you're being inspired by the right thing. Don't be inspired by the Gucci and the Lambos and the Benzes and stuff like that. What have they actually done? Have they had impact? Or are they just stunting? Because listen, anyone can stunt. But can they have impact? Can they would they be happy with even just, impacting the lives of just one person, the life of just one person? Do they always have to be on stage and telling you can do it, you can do it for $13.99. You can split it up into 4 payments of Klarna and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Oh shit, Vivian, you're so right.
Vivian, I like your experience and your advice is so it's encouraging for a lot of women. If there are like women out there listening right now who are in that place, the place where they would be targeted for an MLM, or being like, I want to do something. What would your advice be to them if they came to you and they said, I want to do something? Let's say in this case, they're not sure exactly what it is, but they want to find purpose again.
That's a really good question. What I would say to them is have a seat, sit down, just have a seat, and figure out what really speaks to you. Right? Not what's trending, not what your girlfriend's doing and she's really, really good at that. But if that's the thing, but if you see a girlfriend that's doing something, you really think that you could be good at that, maybe, intern for her and see if that's the thing you really want to do. Right? There's nothing wrong with trying multiple things.
Right.
So I would just keep trying multiple things, step outside your comfort zone and just try different things and see what sticks for you, see what you enjoy, and make sure while you're doing it, you're being authentic and true to yourself. Because one of the first things people are going to figure out is if you're not being authentic. Because if you can't keep up the veneer, of whoever you're trying to copy, it's going to be quite obvious.
Yes.
So make sure you're being really true to yourself. And listen, I always tell people, you don't got to shine bright like me. You got to shine bright like you. Lights shine, the sun shines, mirrors shine, diamonds shine. Just shine in your own way. Don't try and copy anyone else's shine, because that's not for you. You're one of one. So just be that one of one.
It's so, and if that means that, a lot of what people have to do is like kind of go inside and find out who they are. Like we actually stopped going to a lot of conferences and like events and stuff with because we weren't influencers. That's not what we set out to be. We started like when you did, when there was no Instagram was a for artists and photographers.
Yeah,
it was not
posting
for
pictures of your food.
Yeah, it was not for, showing off your whole entire life. So it kind of fucked with us when we went and did that, because you begin to kind of be like, wait, what are we supposed to be doing? And people have opinions of what you should be doing to be successful. So we're kind of like, it worked for us to just kind of shut her down. And I think that got taken the wrong way sometimes, but we were a business not trying to be socialites, like that wasn't what we were trying to be. We weren't trying to be popular. We were trying to make money. So I think you have to find out what works for you and redefine what success is for you, because some people can have a luxury of having a hobby and, working for someone and making a salary, and maybe not being an entrepreneur to make and sell a company. So I think as women,
when we people ask to speak to us when they want to start a business, we've realized that we need to find out, like, is this going to be a hobby, or do you need to make money? Because there's going to be two totally different paths.
Yeah.
And do you have someone financing this project, or are you starting from nothing and you have to make it to spend it? Like, those are such big differences.
And neither one is right or wrong. I just think women have to redefine what success is. And if success is, even being a stay-at-home mom, then that just, you can redefine that and claim that if that is something you can afford to do in your life, So I think there's a lot of pressure to be something massive, and you don't always, you can be.
You don't gotta be.
No.
And you don't have to monetize everything either.
No.
Like, there's some things that I just keep off Instagram. Like, it's like, no, because I actually like this, so I'm just gonna keep it off. I'm just gonna keep it off there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then also, for those people who are thinking, oh, I need to quit my job and put my full ass into it. No, you don't, girl. Keep the job. Okay.
Yeah.
You need the job to fund the business. So keep the job. If you can balance both all at the same time, then please do both. But don't feel like you need to quit. You're not putting, you're not a real entrepreneur unless you're doing it 24/7. No, keep your job. And then also, you don't gotta, everyone's not meant to be a millionaire. You can be a thousandaire and still be successful. So you have to find what that means for you. Everybody cannot be, Joanna from Nick's. Everyone can't do that. But you know what, girl? You could be yourself running your little panty business. Okay, that went the wrong way.
Your panty business.
You know what?
Whatever kind of panty
People
business
do
you wanna
sell
run.
dirty panties, I'm sure, on your OnlyFans and make a shit ton of money. And we don't judge them for that, but they are them.
That's right.
And their panties are theirs.
Be the bookkeeper for the people who do the OnlyFans.
Exactly.
Like, there's so many different ways you could do business. You don't have to do it the way some girl on Instagram with 1 million followers is doing it.
Oh gosh, Vivian, I hope everyone hears you. Like, I hope they actually hear you, because I think you can listen and then you can hear, and I hope they actually hear what you're saying and they can take it, and like maybe even a little bit of your sparkle can remind them that they have a sparkle too. Like they have sparkle. They just maybe it's a bit dusty and they have to dust it off.
Dust it off.
Where, if people want to find you, I mean, your TikToks and Instagram are fucking hilarious.
Yes.
Like right now it's entertainment. So go to follow her for.
I'm in my entertainment phase of.
Well, don't stop that entertainment phase.
Here's some entertaining reactions to things.
Shit, I love it. Does your son say anything yet about your TikToks or Instagram, or not yet?
No, he's 9, so he doesn't have his own. Like, he doesn't even care about social media right now.
Perfect.
So,
Perfect.
Yeah.
And so they can go find you everywhere. It's Vivian Kaye.
Everywhere. It's Vivian Kaye.
You go to her pages and you will feel good. So why not? We all need a little more of that.
Yay! A little bit more Viv in your life.
Yeah.
And we're going to see you soon. I can't wait. I mean, October, but hopefully sooner.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Vivian.
It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
See you soon.